It's going to be a quick little video on how to diagnose a SL700. This particular model is a 1997, but this will cover 1996 to 1999 domestic engines. This is a 2-cylinder. It'll be very similar for a 3-cylinder, and this is the non-updated ignition. So I'm just going to go over the basics here. This particular issue I'm having is a no spark. I've corrected it, I've diagnosed it, and I've replaced the part and currently have spark on this unit. I'm just going to walk through what I did, how I determined that. First, we're going to check the simple things here. I'm going to make sure this bad boy is hooked up. Some of the models, I'm not entirely sure which ones, they'll have a switch for the bilge up here, and they can cause an issue. I believe you have to have the bilge either on or off manually. This is a trim for this jet ski, but some of the other models I believe have a bilge switch here that can cause a no start, maybe no spark issue. I'm not exactly sure. Next thing you're going to want to check is going to be that fuse right there. It's for the bilge on this. It was fine, not an issue for me. Next, you're gonna want to check your kill switch wire. So your black with a yellow tracer is the kill switch wire. You can pull off either side. This just goes up right up to the switch. If you pull that off and have spark, you got a bad kill switch. You're also going to want to put your multimeter on your battery, and while cranking, put it on the voltage scale, and it shouldn't drop below 10.6 volts. If it does, you have an issue there, whether it's a bad battery or voltage drop. That needs to be addressed. Another thing you're going to want to check here is this bad boy here, your little breaker switch here. If that's tripped, it'll also cause, I believe it's a no crank. It won't crank at all if that's tripped. I would also just give the e-box a quick check. All the connections here, I pulled mine out. It's all labeled there, which color goes to what. I would pull that out, check everything. Terminal tension, make sure they don't just flop off when you tug them. Make sure there's a bit of resistance there. These red and purple cluster here, they should have 12 volts. I would inspect that. And then all these black wires, that's just like a ground bus there. It's grounded here to an Allen bolt, right to that whole bus of black wires. And on mine, it goes to the engine block down here, or on some it'll go to the battery. It just depends how you're set up. All right, so here's what we're going to want to do once we've narrowed it down to basically being the stator, CDI, or ignition. I'm going to start with the stator. This is what I did personally. Pop the cover off there. You can visually inspect it. I took my flywheel off and just looked in there. Didn't look burnt up. I hear stories of them. You pull the flywheel off and they're all burnt up and crappy looking. You can tell right away. But mine, that wasn't the case on this unit. So I followed this wire. Leads you down yonder to this. So you're going to want to unhook everything from the stator to the e-box. I have everything unplugged that connects them. And we're going to want to test black from the stator to ground. I would personally put this on the battery. I don't have the battery in this right now, so we're just going to use that for an example. And we've got an open, which is what we're after here. Okay, next we're testing exciter coil number 1. We want to check the resistance between our black and our purple. We're looking for 1200 ohms. I'm a little high here, didn't end up being a problem in the end, but looking for 1200 ohms. Okay, next we're after exciter coil number 2, and that's going to be our black wire to our gray wire. We're looking for 88 ohms. I'm sitting at 85, which is perfect. Now, if you've got an issue or you've only got spark on one side or the other, you're probably going to find an issue here or later on with our Hall effect. Next, we're going to check our battery charging coil. That's going to be your red with a purple tracer to the straight yellow wire. We're looking for 0.75 ohms. I have 1.1, but this meter's also got about 0.3 ohms of internal resistance, so take that into account. So our last thing we're going to check on the stator side of things is going to be our red wire to ground. We're going to want to have 0 ohms or an open. You can put it on the continuity. If it doesn't beep, you're good. Or if you have no ohm rating, you're also good. And then you're just gonna do that exact same thing with this green wire. Same result, you wanna have an open to ground. I would also recommend going to the battery in this case. All right, next here we're gonna test our Hall effect sensors. So we're actually gonna use a 9-volt battery here. Hook our negative to black. We're gonna take our positive to brown. Negative lead of our meter to green. Positive lead of our meter to gray, as you can see there. Now we're gonna turn our meter on. We want the ohm scale. And as we turn this, I'm turning the flywheel there with my hand, okay. Get our reading there. Turn it again, yep, there we go. So we did that test to our green wire. We would do it to our red one as well. And if we have a 3-cylinder, it's gonna be a blue one. Basically what you're doing, just grabbing your flywheel and turning it, and you should be getting a reading on your meter. Next, you're gonna wanna check the resistance from your spark plug boot to ground, and you're gonna want about 5,500 to 7,000 ohms of resistance is what we're looking for there. I have also heard issues with the wire in behind these caps. You can unthread these. They're basically just a screw inside. Thread these off the wire and just take your spark plug wire and cut it a 1/4 inch, 1/8 of an inch back. They can get pretty gross in there. So that's a good thing to do off the hop as well. Okay, next to test our coil primary, we're gonna want one on that brown and yellow wire there. One on this black and green, and we're looking for 0.35 ohms. We're gonna flip it over to this. We're also looking for 0.35 ohms here. If you've got a triple, there's gonna be 3 of those. The last thing we're gonna test is our CDI here. So this is the CDI. This is my brand used one from Mike in the Polaris jet ski group. He sent me one over, and I got my spark back. So my issue ended up being this brown wire coming out of the CDI. You want to have everything hooked up, stator, CDI, ignition, and you're going to want to have it hooked to the battery. You're going to want to crank it, and you should be getting 9 volts out of this brown wire while cranking. I believe basically anything less is a fail and going to cause you an issue. I had 1.9 volts coming out, so that's a big issue and ended up being my issue. So hopefully this helps some people. Lots of this information can be found on the Green Hulk website. I'll throw the link in the description down below. Hopefully this is able to help some people out and get some more jet skis on the water. Thanks.